If you're a Doctor Who fan with a very keen eye for detail, then episode 1 of the new Disney Plus series, The Mandalorian, provides one moment which might just stop you in your tracks. When the Mandalorian's weapons cabinet is opened, there's a DL-21 blaster inside, and included in that design is a nozzle that looks identical to those seen in a Doctor Who serial from 1974. But before you write this off as a coincidence, after all, prop makers often use real-world parts in their creations, there's more to this story than meets the eye, and we can prove that this is no coincidence, and that the Dalek guns are genuinely linked to the Star Wars universe. In the Doctor Who TV serial, Death to the Daleks, the famous metallic aliens were drained of their usual power source, and the result was that they couldn't fire their nasty radiation weapons.
Weapons will malfunction. Total power failure in armament circuits.
Being a resourceful bunch, the Daleks withdrew to their ship and their scientists worked on the problem. Eventually, somehow, rustling up a traditional Earth-like ballistic weapon. They test it on a miniature TARDIS which they have inexplicably lying around, and trundle off to gun down some natives in truly brutal fashion. In order to create a credible-looking firearm, the effects department used real military components. World War II army supplies were often used by Doctor Who's prop makers, and for these new Dalek guns, parts from the Royal Italian Army's official weapon were used. The barrel of the gun was taken from a Beretta M38A, which has distinctive air cooling holes in its shroud as the exterior covering acts as a heatsink. Real blank-firing pellet guns were fitted inside these submachine gun parts, which made a tremendous noise for the poor operators inside the casings. To jazz up the weapon, it was fitted with the flight end of a 2-inch mortar, which was a weapon seen in action during Day of the Daleks. The merging of these two real weapons parts, the mortar flight fitted into the end of the perforated Beretta shroud, gives the Dalek guns their distinctive militaristic appearance. In addition to the props used in the Dalek casings, a further prop was required. This was a weapon picked up by the Doctor when one Dalek was destroyed, and so that it could be handled more naturally by human actors, it was extended with an extra firearm body. This prop is then carried by Arnold Yarrow, playing Bel-Al, for much of the rest of the story, although it is never fired. After recording was complete, the temporary ballistic weapons parts were removed from the Daleks, and, along with the handheld version, returned to the armourer, Bapty and Company. Then, in 1976, Bapty and Company were asked to supply weapons parts for another little production called Star Wars. This film required a large number of unusual firearms to be assembled, and, just like in Doctor Who, they based what they could on real weapons. Amongst the array of spares in the Bapty collection were the leftovers from Doctor Who. But the handheld version proved especially appealing, as it already had a body, and all it needed was a hilt and a scope to be fitted, and it seemed to be a ready-made inclusion for the new Star Wars universe, even with the Dalek ball joints still attached. But, as far as we know, this prototype prop was never selected for use on screen. We only know of its existence thanks to these rare photographs, which appear to be part of a process of cataloguing the movie's props, and later appeared on the Star Wars CD-ROM Behind the Magic. What we do know is that the DL-21 blaster, which was used on set in 1977, originally wielded by Ponda Baba, was also given the same 2-inch mortar flight, perhaps even one of the ones from the Dalek guns. So despite the perception of these movies having huge resources, the crew are always working to be frugal with their budgets, and will hire and recycle existing elements wherever possible. Another example of Star Wars and Doctor Who crossing over the use of their props came in 1978. During the story The Power of Kroll, Romana picks up the hooked end of a gaffy stick, a prop which belongs on Tatooine in the hands of the Tusken Raiders. In the 1966 adventure, The 10th Planet, which first introduced the Cybermen, 2 Earth astronauts are wearing real-life, high-altitude Windac pressure suits made for the RAF. The one on the left has blue fabric, and the one on the right is yellow, a fact known through their earlier screen appearance in The First Men on the Moon. The Windax suits meet the Cybermen again during The Wheel in Space, which made use of both yellow suits which were in circulation at the time. They can be told apart thanks to one of them having extra detail on the shoulders, and it is this version which is worn by Zoe. Zoe's suit then appears in Star Wars, first in the cantina scene, and then more prominently in The Empire Strikes Back, where it's worn by the bounty hunter called Bosk. Next to Bosk, we see the bounty hunter droid IG-88. If you're paying attention during the Blake 7 episode Redemption, you'll see that in the wreckage there appears to be the head of IG-88, or perhaps its newer counterpart, IG-11, seen in The Mandalorian. This is a result of more recycling of real-world components, because both these items seen in Blake 7 and Star Wars were made from the flame tubes from inside a Rolls-Royce Derwent 8 engine. And so IG-11 brings us full circle back to The Mandalorian, which included its own version of the DL-21 blaster fitted with its pseudo-Dalek parts. Although this 2019 prop looks in too good condition to be the 1977 original, it includes an exact replica of the component which was first incorporated into the Star Wars universe as a direct result of the ingenuity of the Daleks.